Most personal finance advice sounds great on paper, but humans are not rational and life is not linear. Nowhere is this more obvious than with the scarecrow of personal finance, the so-called emergency fund. You've heard it 1,000 times. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account. Don't touch it, that's your lifeline. Sounds safe, sounds smart. But I'm here to tell you, emergency funds, and the way they're usually taught, are a scam. And if you follow the advice blindly, you will be safe in only the most boring versions of reality. The ones where your biggest problem is a flat tire. Why? Because real emergencies aren't $800 car repairs. Real emergencies are macro. It's the economy crashing. It's your job disappearing overnight. It's liquidity drying up when you need it most. And in those moments, your precious 6-month emergency fund is laughable. It's a life jacket in a tsunami. The conventional wisdom sounds comforting. Put aside a few months of living expenses in a savings account and you'll be ready for the unexpected. Your car breaks down, covered. Your washing machine dies, no problem. But let's be honest, are those really emergencies? No, that's just life. A car needing repairs isn't a crisis, it's inevitable. A washing machine giving out after a decade isn't a disaster, it's wear and tear. These are ordinary bumps in the road, the predictable costs of simply being alive. And if your entire financial safety net is designed only to absorb those little bumps, then you're not preparing for emergencies at all. You're playing the wrong game. You're leaving yourself exposed when a real storm hits. Think back over the last decade. What moments actually shook people's lives to the core? It wasn't a flat tire or a leaky roof. Those are annoyances, not crises. The real shocks were people lining up outside the unemployment office after the global financial crisis. Entire cities brought to a standstill during a pandemic that froze the economy overnight. Families watching their industries disappear in months. Jobs gone in an instant. Investors panic selling as the markets bled 30, 40, even 50% in just weeks. Those are real emergencies. And when they hit, a 6-month cash cushion doesn't save you. At best, it buys you a little time. Just enough to sit at home, anxious, watching the news ticker. But it's nowhere near enough to stand firm, let alone take advantage of the opportunities that chaos always leaves behind. So why do gurus, blogs, and so-called money experts push emergency funds so hard? Because it's easy advice to sell. It's neat. It's simple. It makes you feel like you've checked a box. Look, I'm responsible now. But here's the dark side. First, it's dead money. Inflation eats it alive every single day. So while you sleep soundly thinking you're safe, your purchasing power is quietly bleeding out in the background. Second, it's false safety. You think you're covered, but you're only protected from the small stuff, the little annoyances of life. When a real storm hits, that pile of cash vanishes in a blink. And third, it's psychological handcuffs. You're told to never touch it, so you lock it away, stop building further reserves, and convincing yourself you're safe when you're not. It's the financial equivalent of strapping on a cheap bicycle helmet and thinking you're ready to race Formula 1. Life doesn't move in straight lines. It lunges forward in shocks, crashes, and sudden leaps. And money behaves the exact same way. Wealth isn't built like a steady paycheck dripping in year after year. It's built in moments. Moments of chaos when the markets are panicking. Moments of fear when the world feels like it's coming apart. Moments when everyone else is running for the exits and a tiny few are prepared to step in. That's when the biggest transfers of wealth happen. Not in the calm, not in the tidy little savings plans, but in the storm. And yet, that's exactly when the average person is the weakest. Because the so-called emergency fund is too small to matter, too scared to touch, and too dead to seize the moment. When markets crash, people don't sit there calmly saying, I wish I could buy right now. They freeze, they panic, they watch their account balance bleed red. And instead of holding steady, most hit the panic button. They sell into the crash, locking in their losses, trying to make the fear stop. It paralyzes them. And even if they have the cash, it's locked away in a little mental box labeled "Don't touch." This is only for rent and groceries. So they sit on the sidelines. They clutch their tiny emergency fund like a life raft while fortunes are being transferred all around them. And by the time the storm passes and prices recover, it's too late. They're back to buying at the top, dollar cost averaging like everyone else. While the few who had real liquidity and real courage are already miles ahead. That's the real cost of the emergency fund mindset. It tricks you into believing you're safe, while silently stripping you of the power to act when the world is on sale. Let's flip the frame. Cash isn't just protection, cash is power. In a crisis, when credit dries up and lenders vanish, cash becomes the ultimate weapon. It's ammunition when everyone else is out of bullets. It's leverage when desperation is everywhere. With cash, you're not begging for terms, you're dictating them. You can buy assets at half price, lock in deals nobody else can touch, and move while others are frozen or forced to sell. In a storm, most people are running for cover, but with liquidity, you will walk straight in. And when the clouds finally break, you're not only still standing, you've advanced. That's the real purpose of cash. Not to sit in a savings account gathering dust, but to give you the power to turn chaos into opportunity. Start thinking in terms of opportunity funds. Because yes, you still need a buffer for survival. But survival is the bare minimum. It's the baseline, not the goal. The real goal is to build reserves so deep that you can weather the storm and strike when the chaos begins. That's not defensive money management, that's offensive wealth building. One mindset keeps you stuck, clinging to safety. The other puts you in a position to walk out of a crisis stronger than you went in. And that difference between defense and offense is the line that separates those who merely endure financial shocks from those who profit from them. Now here's the million-dollar question. How do you build it? How much belongs in raw cash you can grab if the bank shutters its doors? How much should sit in interest-bearing accounts as your financial runway? And how much do you set aside in a true war chest, dry powder, just waiting for the day the world goes on sale? This is where it gets tricky, because details matter, the split matters. And above all, the discipline to know when and how to deploy it makes all the difference between surviving a crash and walking out of it ahead. If you want the exact playbook, the tiers, the percentages, the rules of deployment, and the system I use to turn cash from a safety blanket into a weapon, that's what I've laid out for my Patreon community. There we go deeper. If you're serious about moving beyond survival mode and learning the system that turns cash into power, that's where you need to be. Here's the truth. If your emergency fund can only handle flat tires and broken appliances, it's not an emergency fund at all. It's a piggy bank. Real emergencies aren't household inconveniences. They're systematic shocks. And real wealth isn't built by those who hide from the storm, but by those who prepare to march into it armed and ready. Don't settle for a cushion that just helps you sleep at night. Build a war chest that lets you change the game. Because humans are not rational and life is not linear. And in a non-linear world, safety will keep you alive, but power will set you free.